when there is evident white supremacy support from some of our senators. I'm speaking, of course, of Australian Senator Fraser. And I would just like to say that we can still oppose white supremacism from a position of strength, because they are coming from a hate ideology which wants to preserve some kind of status desirable where people are grouped according to their race and there's a dominance hierarchy. And we don't need that. That's not really how society works now. There's the expulsion or murder of all the Muslim citizens and residents we currently have. The world will be made a less safe place if they are able to escalate the violence. And look, human nature has the capacity for violence. We need it to defend ourselves, but at the same time, some people can run away with the dopamine neurological rewards they get out of violence and to create it and to be able to perpetuate it. So the way we oppose white supremacism is through love. Uh-oh. Are you okay, darling? Well, when the blocks fall down, just try and find a different way to stack them. So yes, love for our families, love for our neighbours. We value multiculturalism. We value being able to get along. We don't, or our silence is acquiescence to the fairly noisy ideas right now of the white supremacists saying our society needs to be cleansed of migrant influence. Look what happened in Serbia when these people are allowed to get carried away with their ideologies of separation, division, and racial animus. No racial animus doesn't keep you safe. What keeps us safe are our agencies, and we need to support them, but still hold them responsible and accountable. So not completely back off from scrutiny of the FBI or the CIA or the Australian intelligence communities, etc. Hate groups. We want them not to be ignoring far-right hate groups because they are white. We need accountability of the agencies whose job it is to monitor such chat on the internet, to monitor the type of... Can you go help your sister with the blocks, please? Thank you. To monitor these type of systems that are endangering all of us. Because it's, yesterday and the day before it was people being mass murdered in mosques, but tomorrow it's all of us getting... Well, not tomorrow, but it's all of us being made less safe. It's all of us who are less safe when ideology of spreading guns. And we know from statistics, we can't turn our back on science and what has given us the prosperity. Guns are less safe. America has a greater homicide rate than all of the other Western developed nations. Not even Israel, but Israel showed a drop in the suicide rate of their soldiers when they instituted a regulation saying soldiers couldn't take their guns home on the weekends. So Senator Fraser Anning wants us to accept that more guns would make Australians more safe, that intimidating, oppressing and pushing out the valuable Muslim communities from our society. I shouldn't say Muslim communities, people in our communities who are Muslim. Just as a reaction to perhaps the occasional whip-up sentiment against political correctness or our word choice to disavow past systems of relating to each other, feel a little repressive when you encounter someone who might call you a racist because you've, I don't know, it's been a long time since somebody called me a racist. Although, no, wait, racists on the internet like to call me racist, I forget why. If I say something they disagree with, usually. But something like, actually I can't even think of an example. Right-wing trolls on the internet put out a whole heap of stuff. So like approximately 22 years ago, somebody shouted at me that I was a racist and I was ignorant. I said it accepts and endorses racism. I knew no better. And I had said that I was related to somebody who'd been part of the British colonial system in India, and that British people were trying to do some good in India. So that was ignorant and racist on my part, but with my children, they're adorable, but I understand they may be distracting at an auditory level. So yes, I was yelled at and I deserved for being, but it's not pleasant. And yes, I've certainly learned a lot more now about the horrors of colonialism. And, you know, if I look into it more, my relative was probably involved in some wasn't involved in, but maybe involved in atrocities. And that, at least I know now, that Winston Churchill diverted food supplies from Indian agriculture to Indian people because he wanted to send the food to none of us have heard about this. We know a lot about the casualties caused by the Nazis, etc. But we don't know that British wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill caused a famine in India in which I think 3 or 4 million people died. And I'm being cavalier about numbers here, but it's something I know little about and I should learn more about. Watching this, nobody's watching it live, but that's okay. I'll put the link on my Twitter feed because some people on Twitter follow me, and I'm here to contribute. I'm here to be just one of the everyday people who need to stand up now to make things change. Things don't change without us. What needs to change is our level of assertiveness about the value we place on our multicultural, peaceful, happy societies before they are degraded from, and what happened in New Zealand of the laxity around federal investigations into white supremacy networks, and but more importantly, the fact that white supremacism is tacitly endorsed by many of our politicians and many of those in our media. So even now, people in the media are running with headlines like working class monster. But there's a phrase introduced to try and humanize and make people feel not necessarily admiration for the killer, but a way to accept him, because they want us to accept his ideology that, well, yes, he did the wrong thing, murdering 50 people with a semi-automatic weapon, but that maybe he's got a point. That's what the white supremacists who are still editors of Rupert Murdoch newspapers want us to accept, and we must do the opposite of passive acquiescence in the face of spread. We don't want to dissipate our energy in just outrage to each other in our relative bubbles on social media. We want to be organised and we want to be assertive with the truth and be comfortable with it. We don't have to be enraged all the time. We can be calm and indignant still. We can channel our indignation into more of an educational tool that we want to collect more people into a big consensus bubble in the middle of decent people who want to save what we have, preserve some kind of emotional status quo where we never have to feel guilty for white colonialism. And we can remember this at this time as well. Colonialism isn't limited to whiteness. There also have been instances of Japanese and Chinese colonialism as well. And Muslim majority Indonesia, even right now, is behaving in a very colonialist, oppressive fashion in the country of West Papua. So yes, we don't have to feel so guilty we can't function. Avoid feeling guilty by retreating into a type of denialism that makes us ignore the problems of white supremacy in our communities and in our online communities. We must hold federal agencies to account in Australia, in the US, in the UK, in New Zealand. Don't do that, darling. We must hold our agencies to account and support them and acknowledge that they are the people who can more directly identify and correctly identify and deal with white supremacist networks where they are radicalizing each other, where they are promoting violence, and they all have a fairly similar set of goals: to stoke violence, to increase their base and increase followers, and to, I see that. Do you want to put on your swimmers and you can go down with Daddy for Splash and Fountain? That's all I'm going to say.